They say men are logical and women are emotional. But what if I told you that framing is exactly why most men fail with women? Because they try to decode emotion using logic, structure and rules, while what she's reacting to lives in the realm of feeling, chaos and perception. What if everything you've been taught about female attraction was filtered through weakness, through the eyes of men who never had the power to walk away, who chased what they didn't understand and called it love? The Stoics, centuries ago, never spoke of women in terms of conquest or seduction. They spoke of nature, how to observe it, accept it, and never be ruled by it. And that's the lens we'll use today. Because if you can see a woman not through the mask she shows the world, but through the cracks she tries to hide, you'll understand her more than any self-help book or dating guru ever could. This isn't about tricks, lines, or strategies. It's about power, the quiet kind. The presence of a man who doesn't need to be chosen, because he already chose himself, and as you'll soon see, that is her deepest weakness. But first, ask yourself this: why is it that the men she obsesses over are rarely the ones who give her everything? Why does she forget the one who worships her, but can't stop thinking about the one who remains slightly out of reach? You've seen this. Maybe you've lived it. You tried being the perfect guy, the thoughtful one, the available one, and yet she faded. Her texts got colder, her eyes wandered. You blamed yourself, thinking you weren't enough. But what if the problem wasn't that you lacked something, but that you gave too much, too soon? In a world that tells men to try harder, the Stoics whispered the opposite. Try less, observe more, say little, move with purpose, and above all, never place your peace in the hands of someone else. Because the truth is this: women don't crave perfection. They crave presence. Not the man who pleads to be seen, but the one whose stillness demands attention. If you understand that you're already ahead, stay with me, because by the time we're done, you'll never see female behavior or yourself the same way again. And the first truth you need to accept is this: women don't fall in love with what they see. They fall in love with how you make them feel. So if what she truly responds to is not what she sees but what she feels, then the next question should terrify most men: what exactly are you making her feel? You could have the looks, the career, the charm, but if your energy screams uncertainty, if your presence lacks gravity, she'll feel it before you ever open your mouth. Because women are not listening to your words, they're listening to your essence. They're decoding your emotional posture long before they hear your voice. And this leads us straight into her first hidden flaw, the one that's ruled her heart long before she ever understood it herself. Women fall not for the man who's impressive, but for the one who makes her feel emotionally safe without ever needing her approval. This is not a conscious checklist in her mind. It's primal. She doesn't want to lead your emotions. She wants to feel anchored by them. But most men unknowingly reverse the roles. They chase her validation. They ask if she's okay with their opinions. They fumble for the right thing to say. And in doing so, they transfer all power into her hands. That's when the shift happens. That's when she starts to feel like the stronger one. And she didn't want that. She wanted to surrender into trust, not take charge of the energy. But when you lack emotional certainty, she's forced to carry it for both of you. And that burden breeds resentment. Now you might be wondering, how do I project that kind of emotional power without becoming cold or distant? The answer lies not in pretending, but in practicing. It lies in embodying what the ancient Stoics mastered: detachment without indifference, presence without need, clarity without over-explanation. Because when she's upset, she's not testing your love. She's testing your center. And if you flinch, if you scramble to fix her mood, if your energy buckles under the weight of her chaos, she'll start to see you as just another boy in a man's costume. But when you stay calm, when you breathe through the storm, when you look her in the eye and simply wait, she feels something far more powerful than attraction. She feels safe. And safety to a woman is the beginning of obsession. And once she feels safe, she opens. But here's where most men make their fatal mistake. They confuse safety with availability. They think the key to keeping her is to always be there, to text back instantly, to prove they're reliable by becoming predictable. But what they don't see is the slow erosion of desire that begins the moment you remove all mystery. Because while emotional safety draws her in, it is the feeling of uncertainty, of scarcity, that keeps her chasing. You must understand this paradox. Women crave both certainty and curiosity. She wants to feel secure in your presence, but intrigued by your essence. And once she knows everything about you, once she feels there's no more to uncover, her fascination begins to fade. This is the flaw most overlooked, not in men but in women. The deep, subconscious obsession with what they cannot fully have. It's wired into them. A man who is slightly out of reach activates the very part of her mind that links mystery with value. Think about it. Luxury items are desired not because they are better, but because they are rare. And women apply the same valuation to men. If you're always available, always saying yes, always accessible, she will never wonder where she stands with you. And when she stops wondering, she stops wanting. The Stoics knew that what is rare becomes sacred, that silence speaks louder than noise, that restraint is more powerful than persuasion, and this is your edge. You don't need to be rude. You don't need to play games. You simply need to maintain a life that doesn't revolve around her. Not because you're distant, but because you're disciplined. Not because you're aloof, but because you have direction. Let her step into your orbit, not become your oxygen. A woman values what she earns. And if she doesn't feel like she's earning your time, your energy, your attention, she will subconsciously devalue them. She may not admit this, but her behavior will betray it. So when you feel the urge to over-explain, to fill the silence, to say one more thing just to reassure her, pause and let the silence stretch. Let her lean forward into your presence. Because that gap, that gentle absence, is not coldness, it's contrast. And contrast, when used with control, is the secret to seduction. But if contrast is the engine of her desire, then presence is the fuel. And the next truth you must understand is this: no matter how mysterious you are, if your presence lacks depth, she will drift. Because mystery may ignite her interest, but only presence can sustain her craving. And presence isn't about being loud, flashy, or dominant. True presence is quiet. It's the stillness in your eyes when others panic. It's the way you hold space without needing to fill it. A man with presence doesn't chase attention. He commands it effortlessly. And here lies the third hidden flaw most men never notice in women. They're magnetized to men who possess internal gravity, the kind that can't be taught but must be forged. Women are emotional creatures, but not in the way most assume. They don't want to be ruled by emotion. They want to be stabilized by someone who isn't. And when she sees you grounded, unbothered, composed while the world twists in drama, something awakens in her, a quiet hunger. Because in a world full of noise, you become silence. In a room of performers, you become the audience. But here's the danger. Most men mistake presence for passivity. They think being stoic means being absent, robotic, emotionally numb. That's not presence. That's avoidance. The Stoics never taught detachment from life. They taught control within it. Presence is about being fully here, yet fully unmoved. It's in the slow, deliberate way you speak, the way you hold her gaze, not to intimidate, but to remind her that nothing in her can shake something in you. This presence doesn't just affect how she sees you, it affects how she sees herself. Around a man with presence, a woman will find parts of herself she forgot existed. She'll begin to trust. She'll begin to soften. She'll begin to feel. But presence must be paired with power. Because without power, presence feels passive. And without presence, power feels aggressive. Together they create the emotional architecture women are drawn to but cannot explain. And when you master this, when you show her that you are here, not to please, not to impress, but to simply be, you break a pattern that has haunted her entire life. Every man before you tried to win her. You, on the other hand, give her something to lose. But even this balance, this rare dynamic, collapses the moment you forget the next principal. Control is not about dominating her. It's about never being controlled by her. And that, more than anything, is the flaw she hides beneath her charm. She doesn't want power. She wants to feel safe in the presence of someone who doesn't give it away. And when she senses that your power is yours alone, that no compliment, no tantrum, no seductive glance can pull you off center, she begins to surrender in ways she didn't know she could, because deep down, whether she admits it or not, she's testing you. Not out of cruelty, not out of games, but out of instinct. And this brings us to one of her most deeply buried flaws, her unconscious need to provoke chaos just to see if you can withstand it. Women test not the weak, but the ones they're drawn to. It's how they search for stability in a world where their own emotions often betray them. She'll challenge your opinions, not because she hates them, but to see if you'll abandon them. She'll question your certainty just to feel the weight of it. She'll create conflict, subtle or overt, to see whether you fold or hold. Most men react. They defend, they plead, they argue. But a Stoic doesn't react, he responds. He doesn't escalate, he contains. And that's what makes him different. Because every time you stay rooted while she spins, you're communicating something no words can match. I will not be moved by your storms. That's the power that draws her closer, not out of control, but out of relief. In your stillness, she feels herself. And this is what most men never understand. Her chaos is not a trap, it's an invitation. An invitation to lead not with force, but with calm. But leading requires direction. It requires something deeper than charm or presence. It requires mission. A man with no direction becomes orbitless, and a woman cannot revolve around a man who spins aimlessly. This is where many modern men lose her. They try to make her their purpose. But she never wanted to be the center of your life. She wanted to be swept up in a life that already had a center. The Stoics taught waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. And a good man is not one who centers himself around women. He is centered, period. Women are drawn to men who chase something greater than pleasure, greater than validation. Because a man with a mission is dangerous, not to her, but to every other option she thought she had. She can feel when your eyes are fixed on something beyond her. And strangely, that's when she starts looking only at you, but only if you understand that purpose is not performance. It's not what you show the world, it's what you wake up for when no one's watching. And if your mission is clear, you'll carry a presence no woman can ignore. Because now, you're not just a man, you're a force. And once you become a force, one guided not by fleeting emotions but by anchored intention, she begins to feel something she rarely admits out loud: awe. Not of your appearance, not of your words, but of the way you move with certainty in a world built on chaos. And yet, even as her admiration grows, so does her instinct to pull you closer, to make your world revolve around her. This is where the next test appears, and with it, another flaw hidden deep within her nature, her desire to tame what she desires most. The more powerful your energy, the more she'll subconsciously want to own it. Not because she wants control, but because her survival brain is wired to seek security through proximity. And if she can't own your time, your mind, your devotion, she'll try to soften your edge. She'll ask you to compromise, to spend more time, to prove yourself. And the moment you comply blindly, she wins and attraction dies. Because what she truly wanted wasn't your submission. It was the assurance that you could refuse her if it meant honoring your purpose. This is the paradox. Women don't respect the man who gives in to every emotional tug. They respect the man who can walk away from it. Not out of anger, not out of ego, but out of unshakable clarity. The Stoics never taught avoidance, they taught self-governance. To lead with compassion, but never with compromise. A man who walks away when disrespected, who doesn't justify his standards, who chooses his dignity over validation, this man becomes unforgettable. Not because he tries to be, but because he refuses to be anything else. And when a woman sees that you are willing to leave her rather than betray yourself, she won't just feel attraction, she'll feel reverence. Because you've shown her something no words can convey, that your love is given, not needed. that your presence is earned, not begged for. And in doing so, you've exposed the part of her that fears loss more than anything. The part that realizes, perhaps too late, that real men don't stay because they can't leave. They stay because they've chosen to. And if you master this energy, if you learn to hold your line with warmth, but without apology, you'll no longer wonder where you stand with women. You'll simply watch as they orbit you, drawn not by tricks or charm, but by the one thing that renders all others obsolete: self-respect. But this only works when your identity doesn't depend on her attention, because as long as you need her, she holds the power. The moment you don't, it returns to you. And once the power returns to you, everything changes, not just how she sees you, but how you see yourself. You're no longer the man chasing meaning through her affection. You become the man who carries meaning in his very steps. And with that shift, something profound happens. Her behavior adjusts, the tests lessen, the anxiety disappears, because now she doesn't feel like she has to lead. She feels she can finally relax into your frame, and that, right there, is the desire she's been hiding all along. It's not about your money, your looks, or your lines. It's about your internal frame. But here's where many men sabotage their growth. They confuse this strength with emotional isolation. They mistake stoicism for silence. But the most powerful men are not closed, they're selective. This brings us to a deeper flaw within the feminine experience, her obsession with emotional connection, even if it comes through pain. She doesn't just want comfort. She wants to feel something real. And if you can't offer that contrast between peace and tension, between mystery and clarity, she'll lose interest. Not because you failed her, but because you made her feel too safe too quickly. The Stoics taught that we must be the same in triumph and in suffering. And that's how you must handle vulnerability. Not by dumping your wounds on her, not by hiding behind humor, but by showing her your depth on your terms. A woman is captivated by a man who can bleed with dignity, who can speak truth without turning soft, who can reveal himself piece by piece, never all at once. Because that drip of revelation becomes its own form of seduction, and more than any compliment or romantic gesture, it is this controlled vulnerability that makes her crave more. Not because you've made her feel superior, but because you've shown her she's not the only one with a hidden world. And unlike the other men she's met, you're not desperate to be understood. You don't perform pain for attention. You don't use your scars to win affection. You own them, carry them, and walk anyway. That's what pulls her deeper. And that's where the obsession begins. Not with your words, not with your body, but with the mystery of your soul, a soul she's been taught men no longer have. And when she sees that in you, something ancient awakens in her. Not the girl chasing attention, the woman longing to follow, but only if you remain anchored. Because the moment you break character to please her emotion, you become forgettable. And in a world of distractions, the forgettable man never survives. But the unforgettable man, the one she replays in her mind long after he's gone, is the one who never broke character. He didn't chase her moods, didn't flinch at her silence, didn't crumble when she withdrew. He held the same steady gaze whether she laughed, cried, tested, or pulled away, and that unshakable presence created a question in her mind that no other man had left behind: who is he when I'm not around? That question is everything, because when she doesn't fully know you, she can't fully control you. And in that space of uncertainty, desire is born. Not the fleeting kind based on compliments and chemistry, but the slow, burning obsession rooted in emotional contrast. Now, most men fear that uncertainty. They want to explain themselves, be understood, be seen clearly. But the Stoic doesn't rush to be known. He understands the power of being partially hidden, not to deceive but to remain undefined, because what is undefined cannot be dismissed. Women crave definition, but they chase mystery. And this is her final flaw, the one most invisible to men. She doesn't just want love. She wants to solve you. She wants to unravel you layer by layer, never quite reaching the center. And the moment she feels she's figured you out, the chase ends. You become safe. and in safety, attraction fades. This is why the man who reveals too much too soon becomes background noise. But the man who reveals just enough to stir her curiosity, he becomes the melody she can't get out of her head. And you do this not by playing games, but by having depth. Real depth, a life, a mission, a mindset that she cannot enter fully no matter how close she gets. You share your world, but never surrender your core. You give affection, but never hand over identity. You remain soft in tone but firm in principle, and she will feel that. She will feel that your boundaries are not walls, they are temples. And if she is to be let in, it will be through reverence, not demand, because the man who leads with presence and holds his mystery without apology is not just attractive, he is unforgettable. And if you've followed this far, you already feel it. You feel that you've been living too much in reaction, giving too quickly, opening too wide. But that ends now, because from this point forward you walk not as a man looking for connection, but as a man who already has it, within, in your silence, in your center. And now that you've seen the flaws, the emotional patterns, the hidden cravings she carries, you hold the advantage. Not to manipulate, but to lead, and in doing so become the man she didn't know she was waiting for. The one who doesn't chase, the one who doesn't bend, the one who stands stoic, present, whole. And when you stand like that, not as a performance, not to impress, but because it is simply who you are, something inside her shifts. Her guard lowers. Her energy changes. She no longer needs to test, to push, to provoke, because she has finally found what her instincts have been searching for, a man who cannot be moved by the noise, because he is guided by something deeper. And that brings us to the final truth, the one that ties every flaw, every pattern, every emotional dance together. At the core of it all, she doesn't stay for love, she stays for clarity. The moment she feels safe, curious, seen but not fully understood, tested but not in control, the moment she senses your life is guided by something greater than her, that's when she stops searching. Because now, you've become a rare thing. In a world of men who crumble under pressure, who shift depending on her mood, who seek her affection to define their worth, you have become a mirror she cannot distort. And yet, here's the final twist. You don't do any of this to keep her. You don't become stoic to attract women. You become stoic because chaos no longer serves you. You hold your frame because self-respect has replaced desperation. You choose your silence because noise now feels beneath you. And in that discipline, in that daily embodiment of power and peace, she doesn't just feel drawn to you, she feels changed by you. That is the ultimate position of influence, not through control, through gravity. The kind that comes from a man who has mastered his own energy, because in the end, attraction is not about tactics. It's about energy. Women don't chase men who try. They chase the man who doesn't need to, because that man is whole, and wholeness in this fractured world is magnetic. So as you step back into your life, remember this: your presence must speak before your words do. Your stillness must anchor her storm. Your mission must remain untouched, even by. And when she feels that, when she senses that even love cannot shake your foundation, she will give herself to you in ways that no game could ever replicate. Because now, you are not just a man, you are her mirror, her challenge, her calm. You are the one she tells no one about, but thinks of constantly. You are what every test, every hesitation, every wall was trying to find. And if this truth resonates with you, type "I receive it." Not for me, for you. Because now you know this isn't just about women. This is about becoming the man even time cannot ignore. Stay sharp, stay stoic, let them chase.